love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me. Better believe in your mind, cause it's everything. You can mold, shape, find almost anything. All it takes is some time and some clarity to find your identity. It's mind over everything. And when I feel like this, I'm immortal. 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 Don't be scared. Just give me up. Don't be scared. I'm so gone, no I'm never turning back. I won't stop, I'ma fight until there's nothing left. It's so on, you're gonna be hurting bad. Cause I've been to hell and back. You don't wanna make me mad. I stay strong, you will never see me crack. And if you get in my way, you gonna feel the wrath. Gotta say it to my face while he's looking back. Mirror breaks after math, when I hate I attack. And when I feel like this, I'm immortal. 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 Don't be scared. Just give me up. Don't be scared.
Welcome to Daikaiju Network, where we have a healthy obsession with Kaiju. I am your co-host, Kent, and with me is your other co-host,
Jason. How's it going, everyone?
And so here we are. We are covering another batch of Kamen Rider episodes, 3 of them to be exact. And I think this is our last Kamen Rider batch, isn't it? Before
before the end of the year, because I know we're going to be doing part 4 of Spectre Man, and then after that we're going to be doing a commentary. We're going to probably talk about that as soon as we get done with this episode. And after that is our year-end annual episode.
Which, for anyone who is not familiar with our end of the year episodes, it's just kind of a smorgasbord of different topics. Usually what we do, one of the topics we typically cover is just kind of the year in review, just like any conventions that we've done, which this is the first year over the last couple that we'll discuss. And any movies, specials, shows, I mean, that sort of thing is kind of something we kind of talk about and discuss. And then any other like anniversary stuff or anything unique that we just want to use as far as content for the year-end specials. Sometimes in the past, those year-end specials are our longest shows of the year. Other times they've been an average run. I think in recent years we've been trying to keep them on a little bit of a shorter end, just
Yeah,
because there were times in which it was like 3.5, 4 hours worth
yeah.
of.
Although, unfortunately, we didn't do it last year because around that time I was unfortunately sick all of a
That
sudden.
is, yes, I forgot about that.
So,
Yeah.
so it's been about a couple of years since we've last done one.
Yeah. So before we get on with Kamen Rider episodes 10 through
Yep.
12, Jason, the housekeeping.
Yeah. So as far as the housekeeping, as per usual, you can find us everywhere, all in one place at our Linktree/Daikaiju network, link that you can see right there. And as far as video platforms, we're on YouTube, Twitch, Rumble, Facebook Live, and as well as Odyssey here. As far as YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook Live, we're live on 3 of those simultaneously. And then as far as Rumble, uh, we'll have the latest episode on there the following day. And if you're watching us on YouTube, if you see the red subscribe button, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and as well as the notification bell icon, as well as smash that like button as well. And as far as audio platforms, we're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, as well as TuneIn. And you can find both video and audio versions of our podcasts over at DaikaijuNetwork.com.
All right. So with that, let's dive more into Kamen Rider episodes 10 through 12, starting with episode what?
Before we get into that, I just want to make a brief little thing here that I don't know if you've noticed the other day. I made a little post that there's been some reportings go around that they that a potential title for the upcoming Godzilla vs. Kong sequel is going to be called Godzilla in Kong.
I saw that, but I took it as a fan creating some type of title card. So I didn't even give it the attention. So
Well, and the one thing is that I did find it over at the Kaiju news outlet Twitter feed, and I've seen some pictures of some merchandise, like some of the hats and stuff where it had the stitching of that. But yeah, I probably would at least take it as a grain of salt for the time being. For that matter, until you start to see some official marketing, which I think is going to be starting sometime next year because they've planned to release that film the day after my birthday in 2024 there. So
yeah,
that's
I mean,
that.
until I see something from Legendary or someone within that realm, I'm not believing anything.
So yeah, that's just the one thing I just wanted to point out. So let's now finally get in the meat and potato of the episode here.
All right, so episode 10, the revived Cobra Man.
Just Cobra Man revived. So just switching the words over.
So if any of you remember from a few weeks back, we had what I consider to be one of the more intriguing and interesting episodes, simply because not only did I find the Cobra Man villain to be a very unique design, but the episode itself was very screwy with some of its plot points. And then Cobra Man ends up getting killed by Kamen Rider, throwing him over. Like a an I don't know, like an upper decker type deal, and Cobra Man lands on one of the mines in his minefield and blows up. And then at the end, they were previewing the next episode, which is this one we're about to discuss, and they were saying Cobra Man returns. And I remember you and we were going, how are they going to do this? So here we are. We're going to discuss it. We don't really get any sort of explanation as to how they picked up all the bits and pieces and put them together. He's just there under a tarp in a shocker
That's
hideout.
That's what you call Toei science.
It's what you call tokusatsu science. I mean, we get this stuff. Look, we've been talking about this with these two shows now that we've been covering for what, about 2-3 months now. And, this was to kind of be expected. And some shows tend to try to take themselves maybe a bit more seriously than others. Others, sort of like Spectre Man and Kamen Rider, tend to be like, whatever, we're gonna throw, and that's what's gonna go. And on the one hand, that's something I enjoy and admire, because there's something about a we give no fucks sort of attitude
Yeah.
to the writing. It's just like, we're gonna just do whatever, and leave it at that, and you just take it as it goes, take it or leave it. But then, it's sort of frustrating, because when you want to just have some type of idea, even if it's maybe preposterous, you want something there to be like, okay, that's how they did it, even if it's absurd. But yeah, he's just there. And so I don't know if this is, to me, the way I take it is that it is the original Cobra Man, because they mention a couple times, "Rise, Cobra Man, you have been revived," lines of that sort. And so I just
Yeah.
have been picturing in my mind ever since watching this episode, just people out there in the minefield, just gathering every little bit of the blown up Cobra Man
And
and
it would be
somehow
pretty
piecing it
yeah,
together.
it'd be pretty interesting how they would try to Frankenstein Cobra Man with all the pieces that they somehow picked up and then exactly knew how he came together.
I
And,
know, and
and
it's just
then
one of those things, we're not supposed to think about it, but
and then the other interesting thing is that at the very beginning of this episode is that you had this gal walking down the street, putting up a sign like,
oh
"Oh,
yeah,
like bring your pets, you can pay big money and all that stuff." And then they had him go to this one particular mansion or something.
some type
And
of
you had
house.
you had a few people lined up, and then it's like, "Next, please." And you had shocker minions knocking out people and taking their pets, and then this is where that they extract blood from pets and
They
then
kill
having
him,
them
I think.
something like that, yeah. And then having them drink blood. And it's sort of a theme, to say the least, in this batch of episodes this month, where you
It's throughout the whole
basically
series so far.
basically extracting blood from animals, humans, that
That's
sort
right.
of
There is blood in another episode.
yeah.
So I am referring to this weird logic as Kamen Rider BS. And I mean that as both a
Kamen Rider 101.
derogatory. I refer to it as sort of a derogatory term, but also as a term of endearment, because, again, like I said earlier, there's something to be admired when people are like, "We don't care. This is how we're going to write it." And, you're just going to have to accept it. First of all, why pet blood? Why not just any animal blood, or even human blood for that matter?
Yeah,
Because
because
he is
you
mainly human, right? Human with a cyborg.
yeah, because
Or
you
why not
had
snake blood? Because he's a cobra.
yeah, because you had humans right there with their pets, instead of just bringing their pets along. Because I mean, with the human body, you probably would have more blood in one single human than just an animal for that
Well,
regard.
and blood is blood. And when the only thing that's different is the genetic makeup, like certain characteristics that make a dog, a
Blood
person,
types.
a person, that sort of thing. Otherwise, blood is blood,
Well, and you
and
got blood types too, so it's
that
like,
too.
yeah.
But still, that's not even brought up. That's not even a thing in this episode. And first and foremost, I have to say this. The writers did a very good job of making me hate Shocker even more, because I am a pet guardian and lover. And the fact that also you had a number of people in line ready to sell their pets made me even more pissed at those people, because, like, they were
Yeah.
ready and willing to give up their pets for money. Are you nuts?
Well, you only just had, I don't know, was it 5 or 6 people in line there?
That's
Which,
five to six too many as far as I'm concerned.
yeah, and but yeah, the one thing I want to point out is now I'm guessing that they've reused the Cobra Man suit for this one
To a
here,
degree, I think they did, yes.
but I would say the one hilarious thing that they've done is add some kind of nun-like type of uh, fabric or something behind the head to make him have the whole
The
cobra
Cobra crown type of thing.
crown type of thing. Which, when you look at it, it just, oh man, it just, in my opinion, it just looks a little bit ridiculous
It's
for the
bad,
costume.
but to me, the thing that I think is worse and lazy is they gave him a flamethrower.
That, and then when they do the close up, when the whole quote unquote flamethrower is being used, it looks like he's just smoking a big, huge, fat cigar.
It looks like a cigar where someone has pushed in the end. That's what it
Yeah,
looks like.
and just having him blowing out flames and stuff from that cigar. It
I
just,
mean, I understand because we've seen this how many times in movies and shows where they bring back some type of character and they do enhancements, okay? To me, a flamethrower, first and foremost, flamethrowers are used way too much, and it's the easiest, most laziest addition you could make to a character like Cobra Man. I thought, okay, instead of adding a flamethrower, why not bring back some sort of venom spitting, but instead of having it from his hand like it was in the last episode, why not have it come
or
from his mouth?
some kind of acid spray.
Something like that, because it's more in line with an actual cobra. Instead, this flamethrower deal, it's so stupid. I just, to me, it's stupid and lazy. And that to me was one of the biggest aspects that hurt this episode because I just couldn't get past it because I'm like, I have seen this so many times that I can't enjoy myself because this is so dumb. It
And
just
then the other thing I had a problem with is that they had this one gal that was working for them, basically just reviving Cobra Man. When you had other scientists working for him, you should have just used them, because you basically see them throughout the entire show so far, where they transform people into all these hybrids. But you just had this one uh, gal that was in there just for, I would say, maybe a little over a half an episode here, and
if that.
the shocker leader just basically ordered Cobra Man to kill her off, because she was no longer in use after the first encounter between Cobra Man and Kamen Rider. And
Yeah, I mean that
to me that it just, she was she really had no value whatsoever in this episode.
yeah, that's a good point. I mean, what she never really served any purpose other than to just
Yeah,
be killed like midway through the episode because everything, like you said, everything she did could have been done by someone else
yeah,
within
because
Shocker. But then the fact too that the Shocker leader wanted her dead, I thought was odd because and stupid on his part because it's like, why not turn her into another Shocker general or something? Turn her into a Ms. Cobra or something like that. Like,
one of the shocker scientists that have been mainly transforming all the humans into these these chimeras in that regard, because that's what they've been doing most of the time. And why not just have them revive and maybe piece together Cobra Man, off screen, which in this episode we don't even see them at all. And it's like, and the shocker leader said that she was only there just to revive Cobra Man. It's like, you had
yeah.
the other scientists to do that. Why even have her to begin with?
Yeah, there's just no purpose. One of the things I want to quickly discuss is the detective in this episode. I found it funny that each and every time he goes through some sort of shenanigan, he comes back more and more patched up. I found that so funny. He comes back the first time, he's got like a headband and he's got his arm in a sling, and he's using an actual stick, I think, as a walking stick. It's not a cane, it's like an actual stick from a tree. And then he, at the end of the episode, comes back even more bandaged up.
It's like, does the hospital where he got bandaged up, don't they have any spare canes or something lying around?
I guess too many people were borrowing them at the time or something. But
and then, of course, you still have the MacGuffin still trying to get at the gold reserve, which we've known in the last episode, the previous episode that was basically tied into this one here.
Here's the thing, though. But you and I, the biggest complaint we had, one of the biggest complaints we had about that last episode was the fact that that was supposed to be the plot, and instead Cobra Man became obsessed because he lost his fangs during the first robbery attempt, and it became the rest of the episode was about him trying to figure out where his fangs were. He was going after this kid whose dog mysteriously died off screen, whose dog helped stop Cobra Man during his initial bank robbery. So at least that plot point actually comes into play here. But again, I don't know. It's kind of funny, but I will say this. I think the choreography is pretty good in this episode. The fighting is good as well, because I thought they were actually going to kill this boy's dad, who is the detective. Instead, they only burn like half of his body, and they show it in a semi-gruesome manner before Kamen Rider shows up onto the scene.
Yeah, when Cobra Man was testing his flamethrower thing out in the field there, where he basically killed off one guy that was held captive, and then it was as always when it comes to these tokusatsu shows, that they slowly burn off one of the supporting characters there until the main character arrives and then confronts the said antagonist.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, it's like his arm and body was burnt up, but yeah, he was overseeing the transport of all the gold into this one ship, and for whatever reason, it was the safe that's on the ship was broken into, and then all of a sudden you see Cobra Man in there, and then battling.
There's a weird cutscene.
Yeah, along with the Shocker minions battling the people that were on the ship, as well as the officers, and then all of a sudden, as you said, just the ship exploded
in the middle of the harbor when it was actually docked.
Yeah, and then after that,
all the gold got off too.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that happened, because the next sequence you have Cobra Man and the Shocker minions in the middle of transporting the gold into the Shocker base until Kamen Rider comes in, and then it eventually defeats the minions and as well as Cobra Man.
Which, by the way, he does it with a move called Rider Reversal, which to me looked like nothing more than just like a regular reversal flip you would see in like pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And he throws Cobra Man out into the water. There's this weird like 1.5 moment where Cobra Man is like the same color as the scene. I don't know if it's supposed to be the water or what. And then he blows up, and I'm going, how does a rider reversal blow someone up? All he does is he flipped them. We get a weird blue scene, and then boom, Cobra Man blows up again.
Or like water's glycerin or something, and then he just exploded from that.
It's really weird. Again, it's what I'm dubbing now as Kamen Rider BS, because that's what it is. It's
just like
I don't understand it.
Yeah, I think it's just the point to where that we'll never understand.
And I'd come to the point too, other than rare occasions, this, what was it called? The Amigo Snack Shack or whatever it's called. It seems like, with few exceptions, it's basically Tachibana, Hongo, Ruriko, the one gal, and then the waiter are more or less the only people by and large that hang out there. And I'm going, how does this place stay in business? Sure, the detective in this episode comes at the end, but that doesn't happen very often. And how does this place stay in business when you only have like a couple come in?
Well, and then you also see in when the I think it's in the final episode where you have this one scientist in there as well. But yeah, I don't know. You could say it's just a shell company for something.
Yeah, money laundering.
Yeah.
Common laundering or rider laundering. That's a new move. It's the move of moving money from here over to here.
You can say that. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't
It's
know. Do we want to go final thoughts and a rating?
yeah. For me, I would say I think the common theme for this one is just really weird editing type of episodes, because I think we're gonna get that in from what I'm seeing in the next two episodes, and as well as a lot of blood being involved in these episodes too. But yeah, with this one, um, Cobra Man Revived. It's an okay episode. Some weird things happening. Some things is like things just don't quite mix a little bit of sense here and there. Some of the characters should not have been in here at all. They didn't really have much of value. Like the one gal that was there only to revive Cobra Man, all of a sudden just gets killed off when you could have just used some of the shocker scientists there. And as well as pets, I'm not sure why they needed to use pets to drain blood when they could have just used humans when they were right there, and they were pretty much the same size as Cobra Man. Probably would have had the same amount of blood from there instead of just a handful of animals from there. So I'm not entirely sure what the thinking was when the writers were writing the script for this one. So and then some of the enhancements, yeah, some of the enhancements, particularly Cobra Man, just weren't quite as good, especially the whole crown frilly thing, and then the whole
Boy, that really
cigar
bothers you.
smoking thing. Well, this whole cigar thing with you probably is bothering you, but
The flame, just
yeah.
the flamethrower bothers me.
But other than that, it's it's a decent episode. I would at least give this one a B minus.
Yeah, I would write what I had down, but basically what I wrote is very much what I've said over the course of the discussion of this episode. By and large, this episode is a mess, and on some level, I love it because of that. Um, like I said, I'm dubbing a lot of the problems or issues that we're having with plot and weird jump cuts and just asinine ideas. I'm calling it Kamen Rider BS. It was great seeing Cobra Man back. I enjoy Cobra Man's design. I think Cobra Man is a fun villain. I wasn't too keen on the upgrades, so to speak, of Cobra Man this time around. But unlike the last episode where it became this goofy, ridiculous story that went from being supposed to being about the capturing of gold and messing with the world's economy to him looking for his fangs that he lost in his very utterly amateur attempt at an initial robbery. This time we're actually seeing a little bit more of that. Yeah, there's a weird cutscene when they're on the ship later in the episode. The ship blows up in the middle of the harbor, and when it was actually docked. Um, there's a lot of issues, but at the same time, especially as I've gotten older, and not only have I begun to just understand the production process of shows like this in Japan at the time, I've also, because of just how bleak the world has seemed in recent years, I enjoy just kind of goofy, stupid stuff because it's just fun and you can make fun of it as well. And I do kind of like that. There is sort of a charm to utter crap sometimes. So I still find, I know I've been crapping on this episode probably more than I have praised it over the course of this discussion. Um, but I do find it enjoyable by and large. It's really dumb and silly, but at the same time, it does it in a way that I find to be charming, at least with this episode. So with that, I'm giving it a B plus. I think it's pretty entertaining. There's enough here to keep you going. You're gonna laugh at it unintentionally, and so it's stupid fun is what I'm gonna call it. So I'm giving it a B plus. So on to episode 11, the blood-sucking monster Geba Condor.
I think this is the first one where it's
Oh, wow.
basically matched.
Okay. Otherwise, no. I think I saw like Violent Condor as well. I think was another thing that I saw. Oh well, we'll just because it's Geba Condor. All right, so like you said, Jason, blood returns in this batch of episodes. Talk about absolute craziness. I know Christianity, when I studied the samurai culture in my final semester at the University of Iowa, the Christianity was one of the top 3 religions in Japan, and I think Shintoism, though, is number 1, and I think Buddhism was 2, if I remember correctly. And then Christianity came in 3rd. And I almost wonder if the writers were poking fun at Christianity with this episode, because it is a Christian church that is a front to the Chakra organization, in which it seems to be the only church that is providing weddings to young couples. And during the ceremony, this old lady who plays the organ ends up playing a tune that signals for chakra minions to come out. They take the bride, and only the bride, get some of her blood and feed it to Geba Condor. And because Geba Condor can only survive on female blood, more specifically the blood of females who are just recently getting married.
Okay. Well, and when it comes to like all these weddings and stuff, from what I'm seeing in some of the Japanese regular shows I've seen in the past, as well, anime throughout the years, that they mainly have used the whole the Christian wedding sort of setup compared to some of the other religions. They're like Buddhist, Shoten. I forget the other name. Shinto, yeah. I've very, very rarely have seen any Shinto type of weddings in some of these shows and animes. But I think they sort of like that whole aesthetic of the Christian type of wedding setup, which I think that they wanted to go with for this one as well. But yeah, in this one, compared to the other one, they used humans to extract blood this time, where they should have done that in the previous episode.
More specifically, female blood.
And when it comes to Geba Condor, I know in most of the episodes up until this point resembled an existing creature, whereas this one, you don't really know what Gibicondor is. Uh, in my opinion or knowledge, when watching this episode, it just sort of reminds me a little bit of just a vampire or Nosferatu, uh, a little bit, just from the behaviors in that regard.
Yeah, I noticed that too because when they said, Geba Condor in the previous episode to preview this episode, they were saying condor. I'm like, that doesn't look like a condor.
Yeah.
And yeah, to me,
Although
it
he
almost looks like
flies
some
like
sort of kind of, yeah, but it's more like a membrane feathered wing, and it's a membrane wing that extends from the underarm to the abdominal area, and the face to me looks kind of reptilian like because it looks like there's scaly bumps on it. Yeah, I think this is just some weird original amalgamation that they did here. But yeah, it's kind of interesting because this Geba Condor must be hungry all the time because you have one wedding, then you have another, and then you have another wedding where we get a supporting character, one of Hongo's rivals in the motocross world, is trying to get hitched, and then his fiance gets attacked, but then the Kamen Rider comes and saves him in time, and then he's trying to go back to the church to figure out what is going on here. And then we get this whole plot later of Tachibana along with Ruriko and a couple of the other characters trying to expose this church as a shocker hideout, and then all sorts of fun ensues. But again, it's kind of funny because the Kamen Rider BS comes in. As I stated earlier, it's not just specifically female blood, but it's female blood from young women who are just recently getting married. I just I don't know. It's kind of funny.
You had one instance where I think there was a gal that was doing some
dancing,
dancing ballerina, something like that.
Yeah.
I think that was the only one. There might have been another one. I can't remember which other gal might have been in some other profession or something like that. But yeah, you see shots where you had Geba Condor going after young females, sucking the blood, and when he was trying to sucking the blood out of that one dancer, you had that one shot where you just had blood splatter on the screen. It was like, whoa.
That happens 2, if not 3 times over the course of the episode. It happens to start off the episode. And so, yeah, I mean, it happens at least twice in the episode. But I kind of like that. It's silly, but it adds an element of horror to it. But you can't take it seriously because, again, these suits, you may like the design, but let's face it, the quality of these suits isn't all that good. And the story is preposterous as well. So I just found it funny. It's like, okay, so this is the writer's room. Okay, we got this villain, this kind of, weird bat-like creature. Okay, so what are we going to... A church. Okay, a church. Christian church. Okay. And it's going to be a front for the villains, right? Right? Okay, I got it. Listen.
No.
Young women are getting married to their male husbands, okay? And then afterwards, this old gal will play an organ tune that's very haunting, and then shocker minions will come out and take the woman, and they'll cut her, or Geba Condor will come out and suck their blood or whatever. We don't do anything with the men. Screw that. He only needs female blood. Why? I don't know. Don't ask. Don't ask. You're thinking too much. That's your problem. Fire him.
Why?
He's thinking too much here. Like, I could see that going on in the writer's room?
That could have happened. I wouldn't get past by it.
Now, I have to talk about one of the silliest things I have ever seen in this series up to this point. It's during the final fight. And Kamen Rider's on his bike, and then he like goes off a ramp or something. His bike is airborne. Geba Condor comes in to try to attack him. First and foremost, Geba Condor is stupid because instead of like going up and above or behind Kamen Rider, he decides to take him head on by running into his bike. But nevertheless, Geba Condor gets smacked by Rider's bike. And then there's this quick, like 2-second shot of like a weird doll in like this.
And then he explodes.
Yeah, he kind of floats for like 2 seconds, and he's in this weird position. I don't know, like how to do it, and then he blows up.
It's like the Hanuman pose.
Yeah,
it's that way because it almost looked similar to Hanuman's pose when he flies in air.
Yeah, I mean, it's preposterous. It's like Geba Condor is an idiot to begin with, and then like just bumping into a motorcycle blows you up, and then like it must have hit him hard because his limbs are like contorted all over the place right before he blows up.
Oh man, yeah, this episode is pretty unique.
This whole series is. This whole series is.
And the other thing is, before you get the halfway calling card or the break card, when Kamen Rider confronts Geba Condor the first time, and before you get the break card, you had Kamen Rider's like upper torso for whatever reason gets stuck in a mountainside. and like he was, and then after that he was practically gone for close to half of an episode, and up until towards the end of the episode where he confronts Geba Condor to defeat him, and it's like, where the hell was Kamen Rider at this entire time? It's like he was just stuck in a mountainside for God knows what.
You're thinking too much. Fire him. Fire him.
No. So, other than that, I can't really think of anything else.
It's definitely a unique and fun episode because, like I said, the church part, I find it to be funny. And again, only specifically female blood. Yeah, I mean, it's... And then the weird death at the end is just...
That, some weird cuts, some weird explanations as far as, like, why Kamen Rider was stuck in a mountainside and wasn't present in the second half up until towards the end of the episode, defeating Condor in a weird sort of fashion there. And then there's some weird cuts here, just weird things, just like the previous episode for me. And this episode, I would give it at least a B.
All right. Well, I'm still going to point out some of the absurdities involving the series. I finally succumbed to the silly plot points that this series pushes on us with nearly every episode. With Geba Condor, we get a church being used as a front, and Geba Condor, for some unknown reasons, only needing the blood of women to stay alive, and to make that the only plot point of the episode. He must be hungry often. I like the look of Geba Condor and found it a bit funny that there were photos of deceased former Shocker generals on the wall. It's as if the head of Shocker may have a heart indeed. It was unintentionally funny episode that was pretty entertaining. The death of Geba Condor may actually be funnier than Cobra Man's death in his first appearance, and I gave it an A-. And so, the final episode in this batch, episode 12, titled Murder Yamagillis.
Mine is Murderous Yamagillis.
I saw that too within my my episodes. Did you happen to notice one thing throughout this entire batch of episodes, in that we seem to no longer be doing with the Shocker minions the intricate and unique face coverings with unique face paint colors? It seems like all the face coverings now are this weird brown with like a cross or something in the middle on top. The face coverings of the minions now is no longer unique.
It seems like that they were reusing, because I saw one with the cross on there. It seemed like that they were reusing one of them from the previous episode, and like they sort of forgot, like maybe one of the crew members sort of misplaced theirs and just had to do with what they what they had or found.
Yeah, well, I
there.
almost wonder.
And then it seems like also sort of the other theme to these batches of episodes is that the main antagonist, or sort of the kind of the bigger villains underneath the Shocker leader, that they always go out in the test field and testing their own powers or some sort of device. That seems to be the only one of the themes to these, besides the weird cutscenes and the blood.
Well, in the MacGuffin in this episode is a heat ray, which, didn't you notice every time it was used, either on the rabbit at the beginning of the episode or on a few humans later, was that they use some
I
type
think I know where you're going to go with this one here.
It's like an acetate sheet where they just quickly, like with a crayon or a piece of chalk, just outlined general bone structures of the individuals, and you can tell clear as day it's this acetate sheet.
Or you would have at least could have just brought in some of those the fake human skeleton things. And a lot of the tokusatsu shows have done this before. Even I think maybe some of the Ultraman episodes have done it too. And they've also have brought in some of like skeletal structures of certain animals that they were going to be using for those certain scenes. So I don't know what the deal was. I don't know if they were short on cash for production in this sort of thing. That's my only explanation.
But it would take a person time. Just even the very rough sketching that they did, it takes time to do that. Mm-hmm. You could easily send someone down to the store to buy like an anatomy skeleton and bring it back in less time than it would take to draw, one of those things. And so I don't get it. And another thing that's weird is that the good guy scientist in this episode at the beginning is talking to his colleague about how he made such a horrible device in the heat ray. And then he's talking about how the world cannot have this device and I need to hide it, but I'm not going to tell you. And I thought to myself, I'm going, then what the hell did you think was going to happen when you decided to invent a heat ray, that all of a sudden now you're having second thoughts? It's like, you invented a heat ray to kill, obviously. It's not like Dr. Serizawa, who accidentally stumbled upon the elements to make the oxygen destroyer. You intentionally built a heat death ray, and now you're like, oh no, I gotta hide it. And I'm like, no, if all of a sudden you hate it, then what you need to do is disassemble it. Don't hide it.
Or maybe you shouldn't have just put it on a pen and paper to begin with.
such stupidity. And again, I know this is going to be a problem throughout this series and Spectre Man and any of the few. I have to do this, like I've said before. Part of it is my job as, a podcast co-host. For anybody out there who has not yet seen these but thinking about watching them, I am kind of forewarning you of any absurdities that you may encounter when, should you actually watch these series. But again, this is stupid logic. And even though it's so stupid that when you think about it, your mind hurts, if I'm just sitting back watching it for the sake of entertainment, I'm like, all right, yep, I'll go with it. So, like,
Yeah.
you know.
And then out of all the 3 episodes that we've watched for today's episode, this one here probably had the weirdest cutscenes, to where some of them just didn't quite make sense at all. And the other thing that I wanted to point out too is that Hongo barely was really nowhere to be found, except for maybe a few seconds worth, and you had him as Kamen Rider, or be as Kamen Rider for most of the time, and he had really no words to say in here. It's like he was almost non-existent in this episode. You only just had Ruriko for majority of this episode, like taking Takashi's place. I don't know if there was maybe something happening behind the scenes that we don't even know of that sort of went down. Maybe he was sick or had something else lined up that he was probably doing for another production. But yeah, it just, like, he was almost non-existent in this episode.
Well, can I say that this is one of the duller episodes as well? So much time is wasted, like when the scientist assistant, who is actually a Shocker spy, goes back and reports back to Shocker the details of this heat death ray. He turns into Gecko Gilas, even though the title, at least on my end, is called Yamo Gilas, but they call him Gecko Gilas in the episode. Cool design, by the way. Really cool design.
Mine's Yamo Gillis.
Okay, well, there we go with subtitles and translation issues. But they spend initially, after he turns, once again, kind of like you said, doing the testing stuff. They spent an awful lot of time showing that he could climb this one vent stack or something like that at one point.
And then confronting this boxer in training along with his trainer.
That was funny, actually.
Beating him up, and then trapping him in this cocoon like substance, and then just throws him into the dam. In broad daylight, for that matter.
No one's around, though. So, well, and then what's funny is eventually when they get a hold of the heat death ray, one evening he goes out, kills one guy, and then another guy just like a few seconds later happens to come by. He uses the death ray on him too, and then you see him giggle and he slides down a slide. So he was sitting on top of a slide just like killing these guys. It's then, like, oh man.
And then the one main weird explanation when it came to Shocker trying to obtain this heat ray was to upgrade it as some kind of heat ray cannon and blowing up airplanes.
They were saying they were going to conquer the world somehow that way. And it's like, okay, like, what are you doing? Like trying to hold people hostage? Like, do you want money? Like, what's the point?
Is there a certain aircraft that you want to target the heat ray? Some sort of thing is what thing is the aircraft that you're mainly trying to target? I know that like you can transport certain things via airplane from one place to another, as well as important people. What's the main thing that you're trying to target?
It reminds me of Godzilla Tokyo SOS with our main character Tujo or Chujo. No, it's not Chujo. Oh, or is it Chujo? It's been a while since I've seen the movie.
It's been a long time since I've
I
last
know
watched
that
it.
was Hiroshi Koizumi's character. I don't know if his nephew was named that too or not, but nevertheless, he has that rivalry with that one co-pilot of Kiru, and at one point he goes to the guy and he goes, "What's your game?" And so I'm asking Shocker at this point, "What's your game, huh?" With this whole heat death ray and trying to just shoot planes down. How do you think that's gonna get you to conquer the world?
And then and then when Ruriko was going trying to locate the Shocker base, and you had Yamagilas going out to the field with that heat ray gun, and I tell you, he had at least a couple chances to use the heat ray or the light ray gun to finish off Ruriko at that regard, and then right up until you had Kamen Rider come and save the day, defeat Yamagilas. Well, he didn't actually defeat Yamagilas.
No,
You
he
had
didn't
the
know.
scientists aiming the light ray, and you had, instead of just melting the entire skin from the bones of Yamagilas, he just explodes.
Yeah, so yeah, we like explosions and fire. So blood and fire are the themes of these of this batch of episodes here. By the
So,
way,
so they're trying to. Oh, go ahead.
I thought it was funny though when he was fighting Kamen Rider while using the heat ray. First and foremost, I was like, there are several moments here where Kamen Rider should have been hit to begin with. Second of all, when they were trying to show that actually Gecko Gilas missed, they would show the same shot in this dirt field blowing up, and I'm going, wait a minute, they were just on asphalt there. They weren't out in the dirt, but they kept showing the same shot out in this dirt of this little patch of dirt blowing up every time Gecko Gilas kept
He's thinking too
missing.
much. Fire him.
I need this job. How am I going to buy Burger King every day?
Well, you're just going to have to downgrade to Taco Bell.
That might even be an upgrade. It depends here.
Depends on the person. But anyways.
So for me, I'm just gonna go into my final thoughts and a rating here. I was disappointed with this episode. It just seemed like I don't know if the writers really had much of an idea of how they truly wanted to write and structure the episode, because it compared to a lot of other episodes, it just seemed like there was not much of a real progression. It seemed like the episode was very small in terms of its storytelling, and a lot of space was devoted to literally nothing. And that is very disappointing. Gecko Gilas has a very cool, design, and I think a lot of potential was wasted. He had that awesome cocoon type of ability, and instead it's only used like once in this episode, and the rest of the time he's trying to use this heat death ray and all that. And part of me is like, you wasted a cool ability that he had on this stupid heat death ray that is just dumb to begin with. It's just it's not really a mess. It's almost as if the writing team came in and just didn't want to work that day and just kind of hodgepodge something together. And they just said, well, because the production timing on these is so short anyways, we have to go with it. So there was potential here. And I think for the first time, maybe in this series, I am disappointed in a Kamen Rider episode. I can go with stupid, silly crap like we've gotten in the last however many episodes. But to put together something in which just time is wasted to where nothing happens and some of the decisions you make are what they are, uh, it's disappointing. And there's just enough here, I think, to maybe keep you mildly interested. Otherwise, I did find myself spacing off more with this one than I have with any other Kamen Rider episode thus far. So,
Yeah, it was sort of the
you
same
know
with
what?
me
I
too.
have a C written on my notes. I'm actually going to downgrade it to a C minus.
Hmm. Yeah, uh, like the things that I've talked about as far as the editing, as far as the post-production editing, it's one of the weirdest things and didn't really explain much, and almost the non-existence of Hongo in here, except for you see bits of him here and there, and it's like he didn't really have much to say at all. In here, you only had him in times when he was Kamen Rider uh, there. Um, yeah, you really had a good potential with Yamagillis, but you just didn't really execute him quite as well compared to the other antagonists uh, from previous episodes here. Because I mean, we're already 12 episodes in here, and I'd say by far this Yamagillis is probably one of the most underutilized antagonists so far, and I hope that's not the case moving forward. And as well as the really weird, nonsensical scenes or sequences in this episode. It's just, yeah, just really one of the weirdest episodes up to this point. So for me, I would give this one a C.
Yeah, it's disappointing. I don't. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I just hope that like at this point that goes in the roller coaster type of effect when it comes to this show.
Yeah, and look, there's what 90 some odd episodes of Kamen Rider.
Yeah, close
Um,
to 100.
yeah, when you have a show that goes on for that many episodes, yeah, not everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows. You're going to have off days, and that's
Mm,
fine. It's just that did it have to be this one? But I don't know. But it is what it is. So
mhm.
unfortunately, it's going to be one of those that's going to be categorized in the uh, it's not awful per se, but just disappointing.
Yeah.
So,
So otherwise, I can't think of anything else besides yeah, closing out this episode.
yeah. So, yeah, with that, thank you so much for listening and or watching. And we will be back here in a couple weeks for our final batch of Spectrum Man episodes before the end of the year. And so, yeah. And then we're going to get into December and then all fun breaks loose.
Yeah, so yeah, if you're watching us on YouTube, if you still see that red subscribe button down below the video here, make sure to hit that, as well as smash that like button and hit the notification bell icon. And you can find us all in one place at our link tree /Daikaiju network link that you see right there in front of you, and as well as video platforms as I mentioned, YouTube. Then we're also on Twitch, Rumble, Facebook Live, and as well as Odyssey. Audio platforms were available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, as well as TuneIn. And you can find both video and audio versions of our episodes right on our own website at daikaijunetwork.com.
Mm-hmm. And once again, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you in a couple weeks.
All right. Take care, everyone.